Hello and welcome. I'm just going to adjust my camera. Welcome and happy Sunday. So we are back again. It is officially June 29th. So one more day before the end of June, and then we will be done with this month and moving on to July. So welcome back to all the parents and caregivers who have teens in their home. I am Natalie Claude. I am a licensed clinical social worker with over 10 years of experience working with children and families, working with adults, working with individuals with intellectual disabilities, with the homeless population, substance abuse. I've worked with a wide variety of populations, and the majority of my time has been spent working with parents and children and teens with the primary focus of trauma. Other than that, those are my professional titles. My personal titles will be friend, sister, cousin, auntie, am I forgetting one? Auntie, friend, I think that's everything. Follower of Jesus Christ and citizen of heaven. So here, our goal is at Raising Teens with Natalie is that we are going to strengthen you through your tenacious teen. So we know that parenting is hard work, that you've got more than what you've bargained for. Definitely not probably what you were expecting. You may feel like some days you're bracing for impact, and other days you might be preparing for war because parenting the tenacious teens of today is a challenge. So over the month of June, we've been on a journey. We've talked about being honest with ourselves. We talked about resetting expectations. We've talked about revisiting some of our relationships with ourselves, as well as the team that is in our homes. We've talked about relationships being a reflection of our self-worth. And just last week, if you did join me while I was away, I had posted a video. We had talked about the transition from parent to supervisor. And that's basically like a mindset shift so that you are able to reaffirm your boundaries and not stress yourself out, because parenting will stress you out if you're allowed to do so. And just resetting some of the unrealistic expectations that we have when it comes to parenting, because parenting is supposed to be a two-way street. And for a lot of you, maybe most of you, you've been operating as if it's a one-way street. So those are some of the things that we've gone through in the last couple of weeks. So if you didn't get a chance to see any of my videos and you are joining us here for the first time, welcome. I would suggest that you find my page on Instagram or on YouTube, look at some of my videos, some of my posts, that you can catch up to speed and to where the rest of us are. So for you who is new today, and for the rest of you guys, thank you for joining me once again. We're gonna move on to another key secret in terms of, well, maybe it's not a secret. I guess for you guys, it may not be a secret, but in terms of something, another key ingredient that you're going to need in order to parent and parent well, right? Our secret is that you cannot parent outside of God's grace. Now, it is too hard to do it without Him, which is probably why some of you guys are on my page right now, which you're joining me to be able to learn some things about how to parent well and how to parent in a way that helps you feel encouraged, strengthened, and ready to do it from day to day, but also so that you're not tired out by some of the challenges that you're seeing in your home with your teen and the friction that occurs there. So I know some of you guys are probably followers of Jesus Christ, and some of you guys are not religious in any way. But when you come here for Raising Teens with Natalie, you're getting both. So I am clinically sound and also biblically based, if that makes sense, because that's just how God created me. So I can't really separate the two. So for you who are believers, great. For you who are not, there's something here for you anyway. Thinking about just parenting as a whole, what if it could be easier? What if by design, God did not mean for it to be done on your own by yourself and just you? And doing it so makes it feel like it's impossible. So some of you might be parenting in a variety of ways. Some of you guys are married and you have a spouse at home who helps you in your parenting. Some of you guys are single parents where you're just a mom doing it on your own or your dad doing it on your own. Maybe you are a sibling who took on the responsibility of the younger kids in your family. Maybe you are an aunt or an uncle or a cousin or a family friend who's fostering some children in your home. Wherever you are in that, it is hard to do this work on your own. It's definitely hard to do this work on your own. And some of you might even be married with a spouse and the spouse is not taking an active role in terms of the parenting, which is why help is needed. And for me, grace is sufficient. And that's what the Bible says as well. So we're going to go through some verses today to give, for those who may have a Bible, definitely go grab it and open it up. And for those of you who don't have a Bible, don't worry, I'll have some of the some of the verses on the bottom of the page so that you could read along with us. And then I also have my phone just to go through some extra things that I have. So one of the things that I wanted to bring to your attention was Philippians 4:13, which says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, literally. I guess I think about for me in my work, and just so I think I prefaced this sometime in the last couple of lives that we went through, like I do have a 9 to 5 regular job in the day-to-day, working as a clinical director. And what that entails is a lot of people work, in terms of having conversation with individuals, in terms of supervising, in terms of having to steer, we'll say, a ship or a clinic, so to speak. And in order to do that work, I need God for sure, because I don't know, I don't even know how I could do without him, to be quite honest. And that's just for me. I know for some of you guys, you might be struggling along the way, but getting the job done. Some of you guys might be excelling. But wherever you are, for me, I rely on this verse, and I think of this verse often, especially when things are getting challenging for me. Sometimes when things are getting too challenging, which we had talked about the first week of June, was about having to reevaluate. Reevaluating is when things get difficult, you might need to reevaluate some things because there's some boundaries that probably got crossed, some boundaries that probably need to be set that weren't. So you're at a point where you're overexerting yourself. And that happens a lot of the time in parenting. And for the Philippians 4:13, that was the NKJV version. And I'm going to go through a couple of different versions. AMP, which is Amplified Version, says that I can do all things which he has called me to do through him who strengthens and empowers me to fulfill his purpose. I am self-sufficient in Christ's sufficiency. I am ready for anything and equal to anything through him who infuses me with inner strength and confident peace. Part of what God has called you to do is parenting. Whether you want to do it or not, the child is in your home. So not really like you got a choice anyway. Some of you might feel like, you know what, I'm not doing this today. And because there are challenges that show up from day to day. And those are probably the days that you need to open your mouth and ask for help. Some of you guys may have a village in terms of, yes, you are parenting, but you also have other people who are helping in your parenting, whether it be another family member, maybe it might be friends, maybe it might be partnering with the school in order to get your child what they need, but also in order to make sure that you are grounded or sane through this journey. Some of you, the help might mean in therapy, or like finding a group like here, coming with me and partnering with me in terms of Raising Teens with Natalie, is being able to find a community that's going to help you to do this work, because you cannot do it alone. So when things feel especially hard, those are the times that you definitely need to open your mouth and ask for help from whoever. Now, here, feel free to email me, send me a DM, send me a comment, and I will be glad to touch base with you via email, text message, or even calling, depending on where you are in the country. And then if you need like individual help, where you need a therapist maybe to help you through some challenging times, I can help connect you to one. For Connecticut, there's some people I would recommend. And for those who live outside of the state of Connecticut, I can help you find some avenues on how to find the best therapist for you. But that is that's for that. In terms of just being able to remind yourself that this is not meant for you to do it on your own. So if you believe in God, God is definitely going to be part of your source. For those of you who do not believe in God, you definitely need community. But either way, on whichever line that you toe, you need community in order to make this doable. It's not meant to do it on your own. You cannot teach your child everything that is required to teach them, because it's just not how parenting was designed. And when you're trying to do it all, that's when you oftentimes might feel burnt out. But yeah, so some of you might be suffering silently, and I hope that if you are, that this message is for you, and that you have the wake-up call to open your mouth and ask for help, whether it be from me or somebody else in your circle. Another verse, which is probably our grounding verse for today, is 2 Corinthians 9, verse 8, which says, God is able, let me read that again. God is able to make all grace abound towards you, that you, always having all sufficiency in all things, may have an abundance for every good work. So that is the NKJV version. And then I like the Is it Amplified or NLT? Give me one moment to look to see which one was the one I preferred. NLT. So 2 Corinthians 9. NLT is New Living Translation for those of you who are following along. And it says, and God will graciously provide all you need. Then you will always have everything you need and plenty left over to share with others. Now, if we look at the word grace, right, we're going to go through some definitions. We're going to look at the word grace. What grace means is that which affords joy, pleasure, delight, sweetness, charm, loveliness, grace of speech, goodwill, loving kindness, favor, of the merciful kindness by which God exerting his holy influence upon souls. What is due to grace? A gift, benefit, bounty. Right? So if we're sticking with the first definition, that which affords joy, pleasure, delight, sweetness, charm, loveliness, grace of speech. So if we're thinking about parenting in itself so far, it probably doesn't feel like that. Not every day anyway. For some of you, it might feel like that on some days, and other days it's feeling way not like that. But for some of you, it's never felt like that, nor does it feel like that now. And thinking about, which is why I said that grace is part of the ingredient that you need to in order to do this well, because grace, according to the Bible, talks about it being sufficient. And according to that, 1 and 2 Corinthians 9:8, it says about having all the things for you to be able to do every good work. So it's showing up? I didn't realize it wasn't showing. So there it is. So you guys can see it again. No, and just to answer your question, no, I am not a parent. But I've worked with parents, I've worked with teens, and like I said, I work with teens with the primary focus of trauma. So I've oftentimes were given the teens who had complicated trauma histories with, let's say, dysfunctional families, with poor relationships with the parent, or even I had some of the parents who were in my group that we met every other week on a Friday from 11 to 12, and the group was called Raising Teens. Funny thing, the group was called Raising Teens, and we talked about the relationships between their teens who had a lot of these problem behaviors in terms of the tenacity of being rebellious, being stubborn, being angry, being aggressive, being avoidant, oftentimes just not doing what you say and doing whatever they want, and oftentimes who even got in trouble with the law because of what the teen chose to do as a decision, because of trauma, because of their family background, because of a lot of different factors. So no, I'm not a parent, but I do understand what you are going through on a clinical background, because I've worked with so many families and teens to be able to see things get to the better side. So for the families who I did work with, who did have a lot of the challenging behaviors, did it start off one way? Yes, but towards the end, towards the time that treatment was ending, towards me even leaving the clinic that I was housed in, is that the relationship did turn, because there was a shift, not just on the child's side, and we had talked about this last week or the week prior, in terms of for some of the parents, they were putting their teen in therapy and not working on their end. In order to do this well, both ends need to work. There needs to be a mindset shift on both ends. So part of my job as a therapist, I was helping to help the teen understand their world, but also help the parent understand the world of their teen and also their responsibility in it. So thinking about that in terms of what your teen might be going through on a day-to-day, and me being able to empathize with what you are going through as a parent, because I saw both ends and I worked with both ends. And I know that for me, myself, and when I've done the work that I do, even as a therapist, even as a supervisor, being completely devoted to God, and times where I wasn't, let's just say the times where I wasn't, it was definitely harder. I'm not saying that being a follower of Jesus Christ makes everything easy, but at least there's a source that you're able to pull from. Before, I was left burnt out, overwhelmed, upset, definitely lack of contentment, maybe depressed at some times. And that was before, when I wasn't fully devoted. And now that I am, I see the difference, right? It's still difficult, but I don't get burnt out. It's still challenging, but I'm able to have endurance to do it, knowing that the purpose lies outside of me. And for you as a parent, your responsibility to parenting your teen who's in your home is very essential. It's very essential, because your teens are battling different things. They are jumping from environment to environment to environment, absorbing a whole lot of different things from their friends, from other adults that's in their world, from the society, from social media. They're absorbing a lot of different things. And some of those things that they are not able to filter properly because of the way their brain is shifting, right? We had talked about some weeks ago about how for a teen in today's world, with the added piece of social media being like a third parent, they are receiving a lot of information at the front door. And because of how their brains are trying to understand their worldview, their brains are literally doing a flip switch in terms of who they are, what they want to be, and they're trying to understand a whole lot that they cannot filter properly. So guess who's doing the filtering? You are. And I say this I used to say this to the parents who I work with all the time, was that once your child finds out certain information, it is your job to educate. It is your job to also teach them the correct way. And I'm going to bring back the analogy regarding being from a parent to a supervisor. One, because I just love analogies. So I'm an analogy girl because it helps me understand things in a different context. Second reason is just because sometimes when we're able to stand outside of a situation, we can see it a little differently. And thirdly, because hopefully it helps bridge the gap for you in understanding what your role is when it comes to some of the tenacious teens in your home, so that you can feel reaffirmed in the boundaries you choose to set. Right? Like a supervisor, you have employees who walk into the door, they probably have some bad habits. They're not doing things well, they are probably doing things incorrectly. They might be using some lingo that you're not a fan of. They are probably even learned to do things the wrong way from other people in the building. And your job as a supervisor is to, once you know what they are doing, to correct it if it's wrong. Correct it if it's wrong, and not just see it and not say anything. I'm a see something, say something. I used to say that all the time to the parents, to the teens, to whoever I was working with, is that I cannot partner with you in your avoidance. So if I see something, I'm going to say something. Now, does that mean that we also have to talk about it right then and there? No. But I gave an avenue to be able to have a chance to talk about it, because I can't just see something and not say something about it. And as a parent, neither should you. If you see something, say something. If you see something, correct it so that you know. And part of your role as a supervisor is, or as a parent, is also covering your child, right? We talk about how your child goes to different environments back and forth, absorbing all this information, and they're receiving a lot of downloads. And because they can't filter a lot of the information that they're receiving, you are the filter, which means for those of you who do believe in Jesus Christ, part of your role is also intercession for your teen, also intercession for your family, in terms of covering your child, who God has given you to steward well, so that they are not taking blow for blow from any person who tries to come their way. Right? We know that when you train someone, when you train someone as a supervisor, you train them to do things the correct way, so that even when you're not there, they do it well. Even when you're not there, they move with integrity. The same with your team. You are teaching them how to do it correctly. You're showing them this way to go, so that when you're not there, they're able to filter correctly. But if you see these things that they're doing wrong, you don't edit it, you don't correct it, you don't say anything, then they're never going to learn how to do it the right way. And then you're not stewarding well the gift that you've been given. And we only get one life in this world. One life. So I don't know about you, but I definitely don't want to squander the gifts that I've been given. And that can mean financially, like in terms of you have a job, you receive money to do the things and cover the costs. But when you don't manage your finances well, you start living from paycheck to paycheck. When you don't manage your finances well, you can't cover some of the bills that you need to cover, and then you're all of a sudden making sacrifices. And that is another thing in terms of not stewarding well what we've been given. And being a parent, that is a very high responsibility. However way you found yourself here, maybe it was accidental and you got pregnant by accident. That's not what you meant, but you're here now. You're here now and you have a teen in front of you. So that means doing it well, so that you're putting out a good person into the world, so that you are doing the job that you have been assigned to by God, whether you want it or not, but also so that you can feel like you did something well. So sometimes I know that because of some of the problems that you are seeing from a day to day with the teen that you have in your home, you feel like maybe this wasn't meant for you to do. And I feel you if that is the way that you're feeling in terms of, well, you feel like you may be not getting anything right. You feel like your teen is always ignoring you. You feel like things are never going to get better. But also, watch what you say. What you say is what you will get. So, in terms of God's grace, just bringing us back to the anchoring scripture of 2 Corinthians 9, verse 8, is that grace that God gives to us as a gift for us to be able to do all that He has called us to do. And part of that He has called us to do, or at least for you, is parenting. For me, is being able to partner with you to be able to help you do this the way that God has intended, to help you do this in a way that is going to give you some peace, some understanding, some knowledge, maybe even for you to be able to acquire some wisdom to move in this in a way that is going to be more effective for you. And that's part of my role in this. And then for you, it's just being able to take what you learn on these Sundays, take what you learn during the week, take what you learn from the things that I'm saying, from the things that I'm giving, so that you can do this in a way that is going to benefit you. The way you choose to parent doesn't only benefit your teen, it also benefits you, because I'm sure you don't want to be screaming for the next 4 years of your life because your teen just won't listen. And some of you who maybe your teen is in a later age where they're 16, they might be 17, and you've already been doing this for a couple of years and you've seen things that haven't changed. When things haven't changed, that means reevaluate so we can do something differently. So I'm going to review some things, I think. I'm just going to look through my notes to see if I forgot anything that I want to share. Yeah, I think that's it. I did have a couple of extra scriptures. Only one I have extra would be, I will save it for next time. So we're going to stay with those. So those are I gave 2 scriptures, so 2 Corinthians 9:8. And then I also gave Philippians 4:13, which talks about I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And then the last scripture I am going to give to you guys, for those who are following along, is 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9, which says, my grace is all that you need. My power works best in weakness. Right? Like I said earlier, we cannot do this work on our own. Anything what you do, and definitely not parenting, just the way by design is not meant for you to do it on your own. So I would say plug in, find your community. Part of your community can be here with me. Part of your community might mean just finding some additional resources, whether it be a therapist, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's another family member. If it's feeling exceptionally hard these days, open your mouth and ask for help. So I'm going to open the floor to some questions to see if anyone has anything to say, and then we will probably wrap up. Just make sure I can find the question box. Probably wrap up, and I will give a recap, and then we will end for today, and I'll see you guys again next Sunday. So I'll leave the floor open to some questions if there are any. Just making sure I can find the chat box, because sometimes there it is. I found it. So I don't see any questions. So I'm gonna wrap up. And just review, just give a recap of what we talked about so far. So we talked about so far for today in terms of we cannot parent outside of God's grace. For those of you who are followers of Jesus Christ, we talked about what that meant. For those of you who are not followers of Jesus Christ, there's still something for you here in terms of being able to find community. Community is what you need in order to do this well, whether it means community and partner with Jesus Christ, whether it means community and partnering with other parents and other family members and other people, whether it be the school, but being able to find community and knowing that grace makes things easier for us to get through, because it literally gives us the strength that we need in order to do the things that we have been called to do well. And for you guys, it is parenting. Whether you want to do it or not, it is parenting. Just a reminder of what grace meant. Because grace is that which affords joy, pleasure, delight, sweetness, charm, loveliness, and grace of speech. Another time we will talk again about what it means in terms of grace of speech, in terms of watching what you say. And we talked about a little bit today in terms of what you might say can also be what you receive, in terms of if you feel like it's never going to get better, if you feel like things are just too hard or are not going to change in any way, then you're going to receive exactly what you say because you opened your mouth and that's what you said. But being able to to think about what God has already given to us as a gift for us to be received, to be able to hold on and to use and draw through from strength, because we're not meant to do it on our own. Right? Even Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Even 2 Corinthians 9:6 says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds through Christ Jesus. Right? So when you are in dire need of some help, open your mouth and say something. Open your mouth and pray. Ask God for the strength that you need to be able to carry on, especially during these hard times of parenting, because it will get easier at some point, but part of it means that you need to shift some of your mindsets, you need to shift some of your expectations, you need to shift some of the ingredients that you're using to parent so that you can have what you need to be able to do this well. So we go live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube and Instagram. So I will see you guys again next Sunday at 7 p.m. It'll be a live video instead of a posted video because I'm back on vacation. I was visiting my grandmother in Haiti, who celebrated her 100th birthday. So yes, she is 100 years old and she's still walking, talking, and bathing herself. By the grace of God, is that she's still able to do well. And I just had a nice time being able to unplug from the world, to be able to just enjoy time with family. So we're back next Sunday at 7 p.m. And then throughout this week, you guys will see a couple of posts to help bridge your understanding in terms of what we shared today, and then bring us to our new topic next week. So I will see you guys all next week. You enjoy the rest